Now we are. I just see that little live button. What
You
up?
see it live?
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody can hear music.
Oh, why did you do like a plug-in?
I'm trying.
No, I don't hear any music.
It's in my head. All right. Well, in case you missed it, I mean, I was trying different software because um, I, I can't do everything that I want to do in my mind on this. So we tried something else and I just totally blew it. But it has been how many months, man, since we did a show?
I don't know, like 3 months.
Oh,
Well, you
I
would
think
know.
try 5.
Oh,
Try 5, man.
has it been 5 months?
Yeah, 5 months.
Oh wow,
And
yeah,
it's my fault. I'll take complete responsibility for it. I keep
yeah,
okay, I kind of broke up the band. Albert called
yeah.
me Yoko yesterday, but to kind of explain what happened, why we went dark, it wasn't creative differences, but it's been a long year. We moved down here last year to from Northwest Indiana, and then make a long story short, about middle of the summer, we were trying to figure out if we were going to buy a house, what we were going to do, that kind of thing. So we stumbled upon a great deal down here in a little town called Danville, just west of Indianapolis. And so we found this house, and it was a fixer-upper. We got a really good deal, but involved a lot of time. So I'm doing this fixer-upper. I mean, and we'll talk about that here in a second.
I mean, yeah, and working a full-time job, you know.
And working a full-time job. So what I would do is I would work full-time hours at my job, 40, 50 hours a week, then rehab and everything. And I think we did maybe 1-2 shows at the most. And then I'm like, I couldn't justify it. There's no way I could justify being doing a show for an hour or two on a Sunday night, and I haven't even seen my wife all week. So I'm like, hey, let's put the brakes on this for a little bit, and then we'll get going a little bit later. But man, that was stinking crazy. That whole rehab, the whole rehab thing, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like, yeah, I mean, you're working 40 hours a week, plus you're getting all the contractors, and you guys are painting, and like, plus you have a 4-year-old,
Oh, that's crazy. And then like somebody once said, like, how do you know when a contractor is lying? The old saying is, how do you know when the contractor is lying? Is when they're moving their mouth. It was a lot like that, man. I mean, there was times where I thought it can't get any worse, because the thing is, you watch these HGTV shows and it just looks, they give you a little, sometimes they give you a little taste of what it could be like, but man, you have no idea when you start doing rehab and all that stuff, you have no idea what you're getting into, man.
Oh yeah, it's all for camera too. A lot of people don't realize is like, they show you that stuff, but you notice they really don't do close-ups.
What do you mean?
Well, like, in other words, like, it looks good afar, but like, they have like a week to finish the whole house, and they're shooting it in stages. Right. So like you see like they come in, you see like 3 or 4 people. It's like, oh, what are we gonna do? Well, what you're gonna do is you're gonna cut the camera, let the actual constructors, contractors come in with 50 people and start doing everything. Then they come back and they're like, they show their painting. So you didn't have that.
Well, my thing was, okay, I had some dishonesty amongst the contractors, but one of the things that I wasn't sure about was permits and that kind of stuff. And so, you know how we are, Mendez.
Oh, yeah.
It's always better to ask, get permission or ask forgiveness than get permission, Okay. Yeah, well, that kind of backfired on me. Next thing you know, I had the inspector here and was almost shut down a time or two. But I learned, hey, got to do things by the book. And once it all got settled down, we got a real pretty home. As you can tell behind me, the angle that I chose, these walls were just nasty. They were plaster. This is all new drywall, new paint, man. So it was an experience. I don't know if I've got another one of these in me, but I'm done with that, man. I'm done.
Yeah, I mean, all that to say, like, that's why you didn't do the podcast, and now you're like, you got a little bit of time.
I got a little bit of time.
So like, yeah. Plus, I haven't, you and I still talk every week and stuff. So, but you know, like I know you were itching to get back and do it, but then I was slammed, you know, with finishing up my job and stuff. So, but
okay, well, let's talk about. So we're back. All right. So I don't know if you know, whatever. I mean, we're back, but I'm glad you're watching. By the way, whoever's watching tonight. But okay, so a few things I want to talk about, and we'll see what you want to talk about. But okay, I know sometimes you crawl under a rock and you have no idea what's going on, or
oh, yeah.
You know, yeah, okay. But you know, obviously, get right political. The Mueller report just came out. I don't know if you've been following that at all, or
the Mueller report.
Yeah,
no, not really. Are you talking?
You're like, as in Ferris Bueller.
Yeah, is this about the Russian?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I think it's funny. I think it's funny. It's like, you know, like you know, the verbiage that all the news sources were like, you know, they didn't find enough evidence to keep going. But when Trump got on, it cracks me up, man, because he got on, he's like, totally exonerated. You know what I mean? Exonerated. You know, I'm like, they never said exoneration. You know, they never said that. But he was like, exonerated. You know, but like, you know, but the thing about it is like, if there was more, that's the thing about it is like that's what was always in there, and they're, you know, they didn't have enough evidence to pursue, and they spent so much money. You know.
Okay. Well, my thing on this, and this is where we'll talk about. Is my thing on this is this. Okay. All right. There's whether you believe that he's guilty or innocent, but it's funny. Like everybody picks a side, and I love the way you say it. The sociopath in him says,
"Oh yeah,
hey, I'm cleared of all charges." You know, but the thing about it was, I'm watching. I watched one episode. There's a documentary on CNN on Sunday nights. I've been able to watch it like on video or whatever. The Richard Nixon presidency.
Oh yeah,
and so that
was it's good.
It's actually really good. But see, that's my thing is when we were growing up, the two worst names that you could, when we were growing up in the 70s, I don't know if you can get worse than Hitler and Nixon. That's the way Nixon was portrayed, as the worst man that was ever alive, right? So then flash forward 40, 50 years, they're making documentaries on him. They're portraying him as someone he wasn't that bad. Okay, so what's the truth? Was he as evil as they portrayed him back in the 70s, or was he you know, okay kind of guy? You know, what's the truth there?
Yeah, well, look at Clinton. Let's just talk about Clinton. Like before all this NAFTA and the economy and all that, like Clinton was a glory boy. And now have you seen you know, but all these things coming out, like, you know, like Danny with NAFTA and how like no one really knew, you know what I'm saying, Danny? And like people talk about jobs coming back, they're never coming back.
Okay, but my point is
but you're saying documentaries. I saw a Clinton affair on A&E.
Yeah, Karen was mentioning that was out. I don't know. I don't think she watched it, but she was mentioning.
I mean, like it's phenomenal because you hear, it's the very first time Monica Lewinsky actually is like, I think it's the first time she's the through, so she's the one telling the story,
right?
And then you hear all these things, and you're just like, wow, this guy's just as bad, if not worse. Then, you know, grab him by the, you know what I'm saying?
I got it.
Yeah.
Trump.
Yeah. So like, and that's because he didn't know the mic was on him. But still, at the same time, you know, and by the way, there's a whole other ethical thing about mics. You got to watch The Jinx. I have a whole thing about that documentary.
Oh, hot mic.
Yeah, but the thing about it is this, right? In comparison, it's left or right. They're the same. You know what I mean? But you're right about Nixon. It's like, you know, like. But the thing about it was he was, you know, saying the guy was like very, very anxious and like paranoid. In my opinion,
he was. But here's my point. Like, here's my point with this. Okay, and this is what I was talking about is Nixon was actually the first one that had. I think it was the very first time they used a special counsel against the president. That was never done before, as far as I know. And since then, there's been 4 special counsels. That was Nixon, and then there was a special counsel against Reagan for the Iran-Contra stuff. There was one against Clinton.
Starr.
Yeah, and then now against President Trump. So there have been 4, right? Where there had never been. So right. I think what something that we got to look at is this: is you can't use these things to weaponize an election, right? If you voted a guy in and he was voted in by the people, well, you can't use a different system like a special counsel to get him out. I mean, and that's what I think is happening. Not just because you could say, whoever your guy is, like maybe you were a Clinton guy, maybe you're a Trump person, and so when your guy is the one that's under the microscope, then you start thinking the reason how we got here is people are using these things like the special counsel to as a weapon, and that's not the way it was intended, man. And we got to get away from that.
Well, I agree with you 100%. Like a Clinton affair, it's a perfect example. So here's the thing: the American public spoke. They didn't want that. That was the far right using all their resources, Danny, to try to impeach him. The country didn't care about that affair. The country things were great. The economy was great. You know what I'm saying? People didn't care. But yet the right used all of its weaponry, like you just said, to try to impeach Clinton. But all the polls were like, they really didn't care. And you know how much they spent to try? $75 million. Danny, and you remember how many years it went through?
Well, that's this one. This one went 2 years. This one went 2 years, and they spent millions and millions of dollars. But this was crazy.
Yeah, but it really is. I mean, I think it's dictated by the people. I think enough people got together, Danny, and were because there's a lot of people that believe that the whole voting registration, the whole voter system was rigged by the Russians, and then that he was in cahoots with the Russians. There's a lot of people that believe that. So what I'm saying is left or right, if the people speak and they want that, they'll chime up. So, and like I said, and going back to that documentary Clinton affair, and even at the time, I was, they spent so much money to try to get him out of office. And that's not what the people wanted, Danny. That's what the far right wanted. So
yeah, well, again, like we were talking about, it's something that is got to be considered, that they really have to think through these. I think one of the things they got to do is with that special counsel thing, they've got to limit it. They've got to limit it to the scope of what's being investigated. Like, for instance, in Clinton's deal, it was, did he perjure himself? That's what it should have been limited to. They investigated Whitewater. They investigated everybody around that. I think those days got to be over. There's got to be some reform in that. Like now with Trump, right? The whole thing was Russian collusion. Did they collude? Now they investigated everything. They were now talking about want to investigate his finances and all that stuff. They got to reform those to where those are not used as weapons to circumvent an election. Election happened. Maybe your guy didn't get in that you didn't like. You got to live with it. That's what elections are for. And so anyway.
I mean, it goes back even to the Bush Gore days. Remember the Florida and the election and how long that took to, you know what I'm saying? And how the country was sort of in limbo.
Right.
What do you do? Yeah. So, but
yeah. Well, another thing too, I don't know, because I part of this show is me educating you on what's happening, because you don't stay up
I don't watch. I mean, I watch the news every now and then. I'm just it's just so depressing, man. You know what I mean? I know you're supposed to I mean, I know current events, you know what I'm saying? But it is just constantly when they're showing the people in front of Congress or whatever, I'm like, this is going to go on for days. Just give me the verbiage at the end.
Okay. All right. So one thing you probably didn't know was last week, the president signed this executive order. He signed this executive order protecting free speech on campuses. And first of all, you probably didn't even see that in the media. It wasn't out, but he did sign it, and it's a very cool piece of it's not legislation because it's an executive order, but what he did was, there's been a lot of attacks on conservative people on college campuses, the physical attacks, violent attacks.
Yeah.
And so part of the executive order was free speech on this campuses. That's part, and that's the thing that a lot of people focused on. But what a lot of people don't know about, there's more to that executive order. And a couple, like for instance, and this is really cool, and we've talked about this before, but he's protected free speech. The government's going to withhold federal money from campuses who don't, but that's not really what I wanted to talk to you about. What I wanted to talk to you about was three things that really stood out. One of them was he wants colleges to have transparency in lending. In other words, when a young person goes to college, and this is part of the executive order. It's basically a law now, unless another president comes and throws it out. But he wants universities to disclose what is the prospect of money making for that degree. In other words, how much are you going to make in a lifetime with that degree versus how much you're going to pay for it, right?
Right.
Because through loans and stuff like that, you can literally finance a $200,000 education that at most you can expect to get $25,000, $30,000 if anything. He just wants there to be some transparency so where kids know what they're getting into before they sign on that dotted line. I thought that was brilliant. A lot of people are talking about that because college has gotten crazy, man. It's gotten out of control, man.
Oh yeah. Well, they could, it's like the house always wins, man. They just keep raising the tuition. You know what I'm saying? And so like they're promised jobs that are probably, that don't exist, man. You know what I mean? There's so many unemployed students, you know what I'm saying, that are so much in debt. But here's my counterpoint to that. Okay. If you can't afford to go to college, like to go to a state college and stay somewhere, like there are extensions, you know what I mean? You don't need to go to Purdue, Lafayette or IU, Bloomington. There's an extension in Gary, we're talking about areas that I went to an extension, and what happens there is you're swallowing up all that debt. You know what I'm saying, Danny? So like, there's people that get in debt when you say they don't know what they're signing and on a dotted line. Like, come on, at some point you don't live for free. If you're not working, you're just getting an education. You're going to have to pay for that because you can't. The stuff debt that's not forgivable are taxes.
Right. Okay. But for instance, like when you.
But I get what you're saying.
No, my point is, like, for instance, now because the credit law has changed, right? Now, when you get your credit card statement, it tells you the creditors have to tell you what your minimum payment is, right? How long it's going to take you to pay off that loan if you just make the minimum payment, and how much this is going to cost you with interest if you just pay the minimum payment, how much interest you're going to pay over the thing. That's what he's talking about. He's saying that these kids should have that. These kids should know how much that degree is going to cost at the end of 4 years. Then
it wouldn't matter.
How much is going to cost.
I'm sorry. It wouldn't matter. I mean, I'm going to be I'm going to be devil's advocate here. It wouldn't matter, Danny, because they're kids and they're like, I need a college degree. And you could tell them you're going to pay. It's debt, dude. We live in a debt society where people don't look at, for instance, right? This would be my advice. You can go to a 2-year community college. It's about half the price. Half. Take that, right? And then apply. And because the first 2 years of core, unless you're going into, become a doctor or something.
Right, but you've always been good with money. You've always been thinking about it, right? But the average, but the point with that executive order is now you'll have a piece of paper from the community college that says this is what this is going to cost you. Then you're going to have a piece of paper from the university. This is what this is going to cost you. At least you know. So 20 years down the road, when you're in a protest demanding that somebody pay your student loans back, you knew what you were getting into. That you were told, you were explained. So I guess that's what he's trying. And we'll talk about more about the student debt part of it, which is cool. But another thing that he was going to do in the executive order, it's stated, it's really cool, is he wants colleges to have skin in the game. What he means by that is, like, for instance, if a kid right now drops out of school, no biggie to the college. The college is going to get that guaranteed grant and loan money. They actually have many of them have a huge endowment, right? So he's going to make it to where schools that have big endowments and that kind of stuff are not going to get as much federal funding. They're going to have skin in the game. In other words, right now, universities don't. It doesn't. If a kid quits, It's no big deal to them. They're going to get guaranteed money.
There's no consequence. Yeah, there's no consequence. In other words, like they're going to see their money either way.
Right.
It's like a total racket, man. It's like they get you to come in. Like if you don't qualify, like because they'll tell you, oh, you can get student loans. I mean, this is like, I was in college 20 years ago. And they were like, oh, you can get the Stafford loan. You could do this. You could do that. You can get these grants. You know what I mean? And you apply. But at the end of the day, you're still – it doesn't pay for all of it. You know what I mean? So, like, you go in there and you're still paying all this money. But, yeah. I mean, I have this huge thing about debt. And people know, Danny. Like, that's like, they really know. Like, when you see your classes, it tells you the amount that you paid for the classes. When you see room and board, every month they get a statement. Like now, what you're just saying is just taking all that and compiling it into one document. I still say people are idiots. They're still going to go. They're going to take the loans, thinking that a job is out there. So
why are you always so negative?
I mean, it's a positive thing, but at the same time, like that's like credit. What they should reform is how they give students credit. You know what I mean? Like I remember, like when I first started college, Danny, man, they had like all the major banks there, basically just passing out credit cards. Like you follow, you get instant. This is way before the web. Like you sign like within a week, you'd have a card. With like $1,000.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. That's crazy. And then the last thing he wants to do with that is he wants to set up a team to research on how to forgive loans for a good portion of the country, mainly millennials. Our generation. It's funny because even our generation still carries college debt, but the millennials are honestly they're in over their heads. So he's going to set up a team to kind of research on ways that they can forgive that debt, and then part of those other things that he's thinking about.
I hope he doesn't say like basically it can be forgivable. Like in other words, like just like credit. I really don't, because what it's going to do is going to end up on the taxpayer's back, and I shouldn't put your kid through school because his ASS can't afford it. You know what I mean? Yeah,
man. You ought to be president, bro.
Danny, the day I left college, this is how much I owed. 0. Do you want to know why? Because I live with my aunt, and she basically is like, as long as you're in college, you can live rent free. I used to walk to school, which was 2 blocks away. Then when I started making money, when I actually started making, I was like helping her out with rent and stuff. But that's, what I'm saying? It's like, but you're like, oh, well, you don't get the experience. It's like my degree is from Purdue Lafayette. It's not from Purdue Calumet. It says Purdue on it.
Right. But you were smart. You were looking for the angle,
The angle is you should pay your debt. And we live in a society. There's a whole other topic. We live in a society where they hook you, just like they, babies in sugar in Infomel. It starts then, and they're hooked on sugar their whole life with credit. This is the thing that no one's really talking about. You land on campus, Danny, I'm telling you, man, all these financial institutions want to hook you. They want you to be in debt, and they just pass out because you have no credit, and they want you to build. They want you to build credit history. They basically want.
Well, also too, these are issues that like what you're talking about all makes sense, right? But the way they're shaped and the way they're crafted, if you say anything negative about education or healthcare or any of these things, people look at you like you're a monster. Don't you love the kids?
Sure.
Don't you love the kids? But the point is, what you're making is, you love the kids, but you have to reform the system because it's not going to work long term. And it's not that you don't love the kids. It's like you said, you would have loved to gone to Lafayette and had this big college experience and the crazy college life and all that stuff. But you realize, hey, I got to pay for it. Somebody's got to pay for it.
Well, it's like this, man. It's like, people, I mean, this is very simple. And I'm not quoting anything. You could Google search this, Danny. So the reason why crime as such is a lot of it is because fatherless homes. Period. So instead of like actually trying to embrace the family and raise the family, they're throwing programs left and right and this and that. No one's tackling the issue. And here's the issue. If you cannot go to the college you want to go to because of money, then you don't go. You know what I'm saying? Like you go to a smaller college that has the same degree. I mean, I work in the entertainment business. You know, I work as a TV editor. I have people from everywhere. I have friends that have graduated from Princeton, Harvard, this and that, but their degrees are from everywhere. It's what you do with, you know, I have friends that didn't even go to college and they work right next to me. You know, they skipped the whole college experience. You know what I'm saying, Danny? And they're professionals. So it's like, my thing with debt is like this is like, yeah, like I know you're excited. Like, oh, well, they get to show you like, I'm like, that's like eating at a restaurant expecting just to walk out and like not pay anything. Not like, even though you get the credit receipt, you're like, oh, well, it's free credit. You get a statement every month that tells you how much you spent. And the same thing with all these millennials. They can whine as much as they want. I, as a tax-paying American, should not pay.
Oh, you pulled the tax-paying American. Yes, sir.
I mean, like, you know, the thing about it is I get in arguments.
Dude, you're sounding like you're 50s, bro. I know you're not, but you sound like you're in your 50s.
You know what? I mean, because someone who makes 20 or 30,000 versus of like what I make is like they're not paying anything. And they're like, we need to go to college. We need to, like, no, go get like both of you's work, pay your kid, help them out through school, have them live at home.
You know what you just said? Both of yous.
Yeah.
Some South Chicago just came out.
Yeah.
Both of you.
It's like public schools, right? Everyone complains about public schools, right? This and that, Danny. It's like, because now, you know, we're talking about the school systems. I own 2 homes, right? I pay for public schools that I've never used. And you know that we went to a private school, Danny.
Right.
Mom never got vouchers or whatever. And they're like, well, you know, I'm like, no, it should be like if you pay for your own school system, and you bring it out of pocket, you should get that money back. And you know we could have used that money.
Oh, certainly. Yeah.
So it's like, you know.
All right, well, shift gears real quick because man, dude, you're on fire, man.
It's just like I'm just so tired of people whine. I hate California, man. I really do. I hate California when it comes to taxes. People talk about schools and the highways. And there's money there, but it's the bureaucracy, man. It's the teachers union. Oh, we need bigger classrooms. No, what you want is you want retirement, which no one gets in America. Unless you got a 401k or a Roth IRA, you're putting into you don't get, you know, it's like.
Hey, man. When did you become a Republican, bro?
When
did you become a Republican?
I'm telling you, it's just honestly for me, it's a money thing, man. It's totally money. It's like I don't want to pay. I don't want to pay for programs when they're not getting it. For instance, the whole homeless thing. I personally wish instead of like trying to create houses and all these sanctuaries for the homeless, they really need to deal with the core problem, which a lot of it is mental illness.
That's true. That's true. A lot of it, man.
Dude, I've offered people money and they haven't taken money from me because they're literally not so. Like they're out there talking to themselves, and you can see they haven't eaten in days, like rawhide. And you know it's mental illness. But then, like, you know, the city of LA and California is like, well, let's just throw more money at the homeless. I'm like, no, what they need is more medical programs, like. And prisons, the same thing. Our prisons are so full of people that are mentally handicapped, you know? So they don't deal with that. They just, you build a prison, we'll fill it, you know? So.
Yeah. Well, hey, I want to talk to you real quick. And man, dude, you got some killer points. But, okay, so there's three, and some of them you probably don't know, again, because you live under a rock.
Yeah.
But there's 3 different instances that happen, right? 3 different instances that happen here recently, and I'm just going to run through them on you, and some of them you probably heard about, others you haven't, and you're going to be like, what? And so I just wanted to get your thing. Okay, Robert Kraft is the owner of the Patriots, okay? So he was busted down in Florida at a massage parlor, getting more than a massage. We'll just leave it at that, okay? And so it was a big prostitution, human trafficking ring that was exposed. That he didn't know. He just stumbled onto it, but he was involved on the prostitution side of it, right? So
like he was involved just paying, or like he had like.
Oh no, he was a customer. He was a customer. He wasn't one of the. Yeah, he wasn't bringing people over.
So he picked the wrong day to go.
Yeah, wrong place, wrong time. Okay, so but he's Robert Kraft, right? And so they just announced last week. I read that Robert Kraft, they're going to drop all charges against him as long as he signs a paper that says he would have been guilty had he gone to court or something like that. But they're not. They're going to drop charges. Okay, then he does community service.
He's playing out. Yeah, he's playing out.
Well, it's not necessarily playing out, but it's basically okay. That will never go on his record. That will never go on his record. Not even as a misdemeanor. Nothing. Okay. All right. Second case. Okay. Jussie Smollett. Okay. I don't know if you heard about that today.
Yeah.
But Jussie Smollett, the guy from Empire.
Yeah, they're going to. Chicago's probably going to ruin him. I mean, I'm like,
today they announced all the charges dropped.
Oh, that's like I can't. All right, go ahead.
Well, time out. I mean, the mayor's mad. Mayor Emanuel's mad.
Yeah.
The police captain is mad. Okay. Charges dropped. Third, okay, last week, two of the folks that live in your neighborhood up there, Felicity Huffman and Lori Loughlin.
I know about that.
Got their kids into Harvard through, and more than likely, that's just going to go away. The point is, like all these things kind of show you that there's two tiers of justice in this country, man. Is if you have money, you get served a different way, and maybe that's the way it's always been.
That's the way it's always been. Like, yeah, I mean, like, you know, I know you want to root.
Okay, I set this up. I spent all this time, and then you just simplify it. Like, that's what it's always been.
I mean, like, you want to root for the underdog, and you're like, it's not fair. But, like, here's the thing, right? People all the time, like, you know, like, I've done shows on prisons, Danny, okay? So here's the thing, right? First offender, white collar, right, has a gazillion dollars. You know, the lawyer's friends with the judge, probably golfs with him. Like, he's friends with the prosecutor. You know, they probably hang out or whatever. And, you know, they make deals, right? Because they know each other. Then you got this guy, it's like, I'll take the public defender, who has a stack load like this high. And it's like, okay, man, like, you got to serve 6 months. But I'm not guilty. Well, do you want to go to trial in 5 years? So it's all, and is it right? No. But then, like, at what cost? Who pays that? You know what I'm saying? Like, this guy's paying out of pocket. And you're right. The thing about Chicago, here's the thing, right? So Jussie Smollett, what's his name?
Smollett, I think is the way you pronounce it. But that one, honestly, a lot of people are ticked over that. Okay, because not to throw conspiracy. Wait. Not to throw conspiracy in it. But
I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna break it down, like, as far as like this, right? It's political. The guy's a narcissistic idiot. He's a kid, man. And what they want to throw the book at him because it's political. Because he was talking about MAGA hat, and that he was beat up by these, and he initiated the whole thing, right? Like, he wanted to be in the limelight. Okay. Now all this stuff, Danny, come on. He's a kid, bro.
Let me flip it on you. Let me flip it on you.
Sure.
What? Okay, now those two Nigerian guys, okay? Yeah.
Did they drop charges on them?
When they caught those guys, they were going to prosecute them for the crime. They were going to go all the way with it, right?
Yeah.
And when they found out, like, oh, this is real, they're going to prosecute us, they flipped and they turned on that Jussie. Now, my point is this. What would have happened if some innocent person would have got charged for that crime and that guy would have stuck to his guns on that thing? Somebody's in jail because of that guy's false testimony. And
those guys, but
I'm not saying it was. What if they would have?
Did they get paid? They're not innocent bystanders, Danny.
No, I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about what if.
Yeah.
What if the cops got to have a collar, right? They got to nail somebody.
Well, I would be like,
they nail the wrong guy. They take a guy and they railroad him just to have just to say, hey, we solved this, we got it, no racism, no in Chicago, a wrong guy goes to jail, man. Right. You know?
Yeah. So
hey, everybody, come in here. No, you're gonna have to go back over there, my mom. But this is my co-host. Come over here. No, he doesn't want to come in. Okay, go over there, my mom.
I have to try the door.
Okay, no. Go over there. All right. Okay, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the wrong person gets convicted for it. I get that.
Right.
But I'm taking this situation. I'm not talking like that's a totally different situation. This situation, those guys would eventually flip. Let's be real. And like the thing about it is and the mayor is mad. He could be mad, whatever. It's really about Chicago because it was going to put this huge stain on our city about like how like we're Trump supporters and like like we're and this and it's going to put so they and Chicago's very liberal, democratic.
Sure, yeah.
That way. Yeah. So it was going to be like what the you know what I mean? So they don't want the city I mean, it's bad for tourism. You know what I'm saying? So like they're like, we're gonna nail this guy to the cross. But if you really think about it, the guy was just an idiot. I would say like he instead of dropping the charges, I would have had him play out like as like like he gets a year probation, and has to do community service, whatever. I probably would have flipped it and been like, you have to go work for Trump for a year.
All right, man. No, last note.
Oh, but the Patriot guy, that's money, Danny. It's not right. I'm not saying it's not right. But think about two people that have DUIs. Two people, Danny. The poor person and the rich person. Well, the poor person is going to use a DA, and he's probably going to get nailed for a DUI. The rich person is going to be, talked down to reckless driving. That all comes down to money. If this guy wants the best attorney, then he'll have to work for it. And he shouldn't have got his ass in, both of them shouldn't have got there. But this guy has the money. How do you make that fair, Danny? Really, the only way you make that fair is more tax dollars and paying for this guy. So, yeah.
You are a political genius, man. And on a final note, all right, man, today is 1 year anniversary of Mom's passing.
Yeah.
You got to have your favorite mom story.
Oh, mom? My favorite mom story is when Mom almost died. My mom went out she was like towards the last 4 or 5 years of her life. She would sleep a lot, because they were diabetes. Her kidneys were getting out. So she sort of lost her sense of time. So when she lost her sense of time, like she fell like one of the coldest days in Chicago. And she was outside for like a couple hours. She ended up calling me in LA. And then I woke Karen up. And then Danny went over there, helped her up. But she wouldn't get in the house because after being outside and almost dying, because she reached her cell phone barely, she would have died.
She died. Yeah.
She would have died. Instead of like going back in the house, she went back into the car and drove to White Castles because she had a taste for White Castles at 3 a.m. And that was just Mom. She was just like, I don't care. I almost died for like $1.50 hamburger, but I'm gonna get that hamburger. So,
wow.
Yeah,
man. So that there's too many stories in my mind to think of any one in particular, man. I was just telling Karen today how Mom was just so rough, man. She was just so rough, and I can just remember her over and over saying to myself, "I was born to raise men. I wasn't born to raise women." He goes, "I'm so glad I never had a daughter." And she was just crazy, man.
Well, I tell people that my mom was the strongest man I've ever met. It's the most manly man I ever met. Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Well, hey, I'm gonna wrap it up. I got my little guy here. As you can tell, you probably have heard this noise coming in and out. That's my little guy. But that's it, man. That's all I got. And you might be giving us some live updates from Vietnam.
Yeah, I'm going to be traveling for a little bit, and I've
You
always
call
wanted,
it Vietnam. Do you call it Nam, or you're not allowed to do that?
yeah. Back
You're
in
going
Vietnam.
to
Yeah, I'm going to Nam.
You're going to Nam, but you can't call it Nam when you're staying in 5-star hotels and eating steak and lobster at a chic.
We'll see. We'll see. I mean, like, yeah. I mean, I'm excited. I'm gonna go and do Vietnam and like maybe Cambodia and Laos. We'll see. So
post some pictures to the page,
I will.
man. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in this week. It's been a long time since me and Albert have been on the air. If this, whatever this is, the air, YouTube, whatever. We're still trying to figure out some things. I got another channel I want to do with some music and that kind of stuff. But thanks again for tuning in. If you like our content, subscribe to the page. And as you can tell, my son back here wants to get in the action. But until next time, man, this is Danny. And he's Albert. Check out. All right, man. We'll check you guys out later. All right. Bye.